This is KXO Radio El Centro. Flash flood warnings have been issued, and we advise those camping on low ground to move to safer areas. In other valley news, the County Agricultural Association has determined that...
This is a KICO weather bulletin. The Weather Service has issued storm and flash flood warnings and advises those on the highway and those of you who are camping to avoid low canyon areas. Remember, gang, flash floods may be hazardous to your health. And now back to more country music at KICO.
Don't tell me it don't rain out on the desert.
Here, reserve unit 523. Yvonne, 21198, we were station, Tanner Station. 4.
There's a body of water flowing down that looks half as wide as the Connecticut. Muddy. Oh boy, it's probably over a man's head. It rained all night, and there's a wind that's coming up from the southeast, southwest, coming from the Gulf of Mexico, and oh boy, is it a dilly.
Every 1 or 2 seconds, another way, another way. You could see them coming.
That awful roaring, I think, was the rocks. When you felt the water up to your neck, what did you think?
I thought I was a goner. If it hadn't been for the neighbor of mine, Mr. Hudson, he grabbed a hold of me and he pulled me out. If it hadn't been for him, I'd have been gone.
I had lots of time to get out. I could have got out real early. The water started, very slowly. And I don't think it would have ever got much worse than that, maybe a little bit, if the dam hadn't let loose up there at the freeway.
Back up where the Highway 8 is, back up in there in the canyon, coming down towards the bridge, the debris gathered up at the bridge, and the water built up and built up and built up, and then finally when that thing gave, I think that's where the big surge of water came that brought it all the way across over here.
They claimed there was 35 feet of water there. And when that come through, it just come like ocean waves every 2 or 3 minutes apart.
We had no warning previous to the flood.
Was there warning about this? We didn't have the radio on.
We didn't have an evacuation plan, but because we didn't feel that it was necessary, really. We realize that there's flash floods in the desert, but we were never prepared for anything like this.
We weren't afraid because there were other rainstorms here, and the creek filled up with water and ran away.
When I seen that house across the street go, I come outside then and I held on to my fireplace because that's the only thing that stayed over there. So I thought I had a chance to survive, but the water was rushing this way and it was rushing that way so bad there was no chance of getting out anyway. If you'd walk out there in it, you'd have just been washed under.
But our volunteer fire department were the first ones here to patrol the neighborhood and look for injuries, loss of life, and the like.
Initially, when the disaster occurred and immediately after it, all efforts came right out of our own fire station here. The Sheriff's Department was first on the scene as far as any agency personnel, and they sent in, we have our own resident deputy. Of course, he was here at the scene. He has a 4-wheel drive. He was able to pull some people out, and he was assisted by one of the firemen's wives.
This community is populated mainly by elderly, retired people, quite self-centered in their lifestyle, and didn't really feel that there was an emergency coming up. Doors were kicked in, and our officers were literally carrying people across the waters of the flood area. Numerous vehicles became stranded. It became quite an operation to hoist the stranded vehicles out of the roadways, keep roadways clear. Approximately noon, I was able to get airborne in our helicopter, Eagle 1, and we were able to physically pluck people out of the waters and get people from high ground over to the Ocotillo station by actually picking them up with a helicopter. And our fixed wing, Eagle 4, was used for spotting people in distress countywide. We had taken a tally of the injured and dead, and we had found that there were 2 vehicles on the Myers Bridge at the time that the waters came through the creek and totally destroyed both approaches to the bridge. There were 2 vehicles on the approaches were washed away, and Mr. Gilmino was in one vehicle, and he washed to the shores of Ocotillo, 1.5 miles away, and was found that morning at 11:55 in the morning. He was our first fatality. There were 2 women in a pickup truck that was washed away. However, they survived. They were able to get out of the rushing waters. We also had a man who suffered a heart attack in Unit 1 while his residence was being inundated with water and sand. He evidently, in the excitement, had a heart attack and died. We had a 3rd victim, a Mr. Sanders, who attempted to effect a rescue just east of Ocotillo, about 3 miles, in the Painted Gorge wash. And he tried to drive his vehicle across the wash, and it was totally inundated and washed away for about 1 mile. And then he was found the following day by my De Anza rescue unit, approximately 15 miles east from where his vehicle was initially inundated. And those were the only 3 fatalities that we had.
Well, to get down to it, the first volunteers that actually helped in the area, say with the fire department being there as volunteer 24 hours, was the kids in town, a group of kids. One of them was my son. I was proud of him because they were the first people to actually go into a house and help the people and as far as mucking out, getting the dirt and the sludge out of their yard. The next official group that came in, at least that I saw in force, was the United States Navy from our Naval Parachute Test Range a few miles up the road. And
when the request did come, it came via phone call from the mayor to the commanding officer of the base. When we got up there, it was readily apparent to us that they really did need help, that they had some problems up there. And the commanding officer made the decision to commit Navy resources to the disaster recovery operation.
We had 2 60-man crews, and they'd bring 2 busloads of people out, so we had actually 6-man crews. When they got to the site, then we would break off the crews and at the different residences that needed the most help. And we had shovels and wheelbarrows and brooms and rakes and hoes and just about everything. And the mud was anywhere from 1 foot to 4 feet deep inside the houses and packed in the refrigerators and everything else. And we just literally had to get in and manually dig the houses out.
As far as our communications was concerned, all county communications went out when the storm hit here in Imperial County, except for the sheriff's office.
Phone lines they weren't totally out, but they were off and on every hour for telephone communication.
After a declaration is made by the President, the Federal Disaster Assistance Administration, under the Disaster Relief Act of '74, is mandated or authorized to coordinate the federal effort. That is, to turn on the federal agencies to responding to the disaster needs. One way that we've been doing, I guess, about 6 or 7 years now in delivering the federal assistance and also state and local government and volunteer agencies to the people is we set up a disaster assistance center. And this is one location where an individual can come in and see all the federal and state agencies that they have to see in one place. They can start their application process there at that time rather than going from one part of town to another. So we get it under one roof.
I went in to the office of the disaster office, and I was told by the small business loans that I was not eligible for a loan because my income was too small.
Can you imagine that?
And I said if I had a bigger income, I wouldn't need a loan.
That's right.
But my house is clear and my car is clear, and I couldn't see why I couldn't get a small loan to fix up my house.
I kept going from one window to the other and saw that swift water, and I didn't panic, but I felt kind of panicky inside. But when you see great big barrels floating down, when you see these trucks being rolled over, and campers and trailers and so on, you wonder.
I hope I won't live long enough to see another one of these, and I probably won't. I doubt if we have another one for many, many years.
I was ready in case it was time.
That anyone is going to build a home or buy a home should try and check into the question as to whether or not he's in a floodplain.
We weren't prepared for any flood like we had here.
But Miller, he was up there for 50 years, and he said he never seen nothing like this.
My children all said that if they had any trouble in town, they'd head for the desert. It was the safest place.
It turned out it wasn't. It turned out it wasn't the safest.